So let's talk about, we were talking about the bridge right now. What has been one of the most over-the-top boogeyman stories you have heard about the CCP and what they're doing here in the United States that has made you just say, all right, I got to write about this. I got to talk about this. This is just ridiculous, and why it is ridiculous. I mean, you laid out a lot of great stuff in the beginning of the show about how China would treat, some of these people if, in fact, they found out a way they did attack the bridge. I mean, I think they would hurt their own self, too, as well, because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't understand. China is still doing a lot of trade with us, right? I mean, we still get everything from outside the United States. We don't make anything here. We don't fix anything. So why would they cut their own legs right there and close down one of the busiest ports? But other than that, what are some of the craziest things you have heard that we can dispel the myths about the Chinese boogeymen?
Oh man, it's hard to keep up. It's like the creative writing teams just keep on cracking one thing out of after another, and it's like, how do you? I got to live my life, So, but here, I think the craziest things that I've heard is the Chinese vampires. That it's blood drinking Chinese super soldiers being brought in. Says Gordon Chang on Fox News. That's actually a thing, that they're drinking blood as part of their initiation preparation work as they're infiltrating their super soldiers into Biden's secret army through the Darien Gap. And Gordon Chang is a regular on Fox News and Bannon's network and other things. So yeah, vampires. That's one thing that China, but more generally, the fact that China is to blame for the entire immigration problems of America, the flooding in of immigrants.
The fentanyl, right? They're blaming all the fentanyl on China.
It's tied to it. Yeah, there's that aspect of it too, that China's flooding us in a reverse opium war revenge policy.
Yes.
And doing that's what's behind the fentanyl crisis in North America and in Canada and the US. So all of these things, like, so for the first one, I'm not even going to address the vampire thing. The second one, immigration more generally, I would say my wife just did a series of articles that she's continuously working on, dealing with some of the claims that Brett Weinstein and Tucker and others have been promoting, that China is orchestrating the entire global immigration program through the Darien Gap and up into Mexico. No, actually, if you look at the problems of Latin America, it is the Green Berets who are like one of the key problems. The CIA, the Green Berets that have been stationed there since throughout the entire Cold War, running coups, orchestrating coups, setting up cybernetics control systems to help facilitate the kidnapping, torture, and murder of dissidents, anti-imperialists, academics who would be resistant to Nazi-run governments of Latin America that were being put into power by the CIA throughout the entirety of the Cold War. And here I'm not being like facetious. They're like all of the Nazis from the rat line were sent down to Argentina. They were deployed to advise and manage Pinochet's regime in Chile, the governments of Argentina, Brazil that were killing students, intellectuals who didn't want to submit their country to global imperial private sector monopolies that would then, rape the hell out of their country after the overthrow of people like Goulart or Salvador Allende or many others. So this was facilitated with the infrastructure built up by the U.S. Pentagon of Condortel. Condortel was the actual computing system that was used to monitor and carry out the kills and to bring people from. They're the ones who managed the training grounds in Panama since the 60s that would train different people who would play a role in this global parallel state run by Nazis that would then be working for NATO, which is what, that's what NATO was. It was operated by a bunch of unreconstructed Italian fascists, French Vichy fascists, and Nazis who were all given posh new jobs by Allen Dulles. And Latin America was a hotbed for a lot of this. So that's the real, if anybody has the infrastructure to manage a type of immigration crisis that we're experiencing in North America, you got to look to the thing that has been doing that since the 50s. And less so like, what is the Chinese are trying to build infrastructure. Like, honestly, they're trying to gain influence through economic development, which we never permitted China to build any, Latin America. We never permitted them to have the type of infrastructure, which the Chinese are finally helping and assisting building sanitation systems, electricity grids, and other things, which everybody needs. That's why the Chinese are there. It's not that they're there because they're facilitating, fentanyl. The fentanyl thing, that's the other thing. They are producing, like, we shut down our production, our industrial production under Henry Kissinger's program of creating a consumer society cult in the early 70s. That was a trilateral commission objective to strip the West of its industrial base so that we would become addicted to cheap labor, and effectively modern slavery. And China would be the part, they played a big role in that equation, where they would be the producers that would stay too poor to consume their own goods, and they would export stuff to our new dollar stores as we didn't produce for ourselves. And that global system of dependency would then be managed by an unelected globalist class from the World Economic Forum and Bilderberger Group above nation states. That's the way Kissinger deployed the equation.
You said Bilderberg. We should have a bell. Bing, 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 bing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
No, it's okay. I love it. Look. This is a modern day Monroe Doctrine style of way of doing business in Latin America. I talk about this the whole time. I have a hard time getting across a lot of conservative friends of mine, a lot of the populist right. The problems at the border don't start at the border. They start with the fact that we have almost 100 bases now in Latin America. And these aren't the Boy Scouts that are there, right? They're there to destabilize these countries because, for one thing, they want to make sure they can extract, the Western corporations, that is, extract all the valuable resources for pennies on the dollars. Look what's going on in Rwanda. Look what's going on in Peru with the lithium. I mean, even Elon Musk got into the game. We'll coup who we want to coup. So it's about the natural, the rare minerals that are there that we're fighting with the Chinese to get, because the Chinese are coming in with their checkbook. Hey, let me build you a bridge. Let me build you some roads. You don't even have to pay us back. Just let us do business over here. They are showing the way we should be doing business. That's why in the beginning of RFK's campaign, I was a little excited, because he was like, no, I want to compete with China economically, which means stop the saber rattling, stop messing with Taiwan. Let's look inward and say, what do we have to do to compete with China economically? Well, we got to start making things, building things. We got to do things better than them, not force them to go, through proxy wars to do what we want to do. I mean, we have the same style of business. And it wasn't great when Putin told Tucker, when Tucker was trying to say, well, you want to change out one American imperialist nation for another, meaning China, to kind of actually say and try to compare the two. You just laid out the biggest difference between China and the U.S. China's coming in at an economic basis, right? And the United States is coming in with the military. One base in Djibouti, I think, outside of China, I think they got 3 bases total. America has close to 1,000 that we know of.